Now I'm going to introduce some of the shades from our new palette. Okay, so I know that everybody's been interested in how to use these products. There's so many different ways that you could use them. It's so up to you, but I'm just going to start by giving you some tips around lifting up the brow. Grabbing a clean brush and one that's a little bit smaller, and I'm going to just pop a little bit of this particular color here, just to give some really nice open structured brows, okay, and open up those eyes. Now you could use this wider shade, but I'm going to use that somewhere else to make my eyes look bigger. So if you've got a hooded brow, or you've got more of a, I suppose, more sort of a fleshy area just here, you might find that using something that's shimmery will make that look more pronounced. So what you might want to do is just stick to just this outer area here, just a little bit along the brow bone, but not focusing here, because that's going to make that look even heavier and droopier. So again, it's just placing this little bit of highlight to this outer third again. So pretty much anything you do to make the eyes look bigger concentrates on this outer third of the eye, and it just gives that nice little lift. Now, if you don't have that hooded or that excess skin here, you might like to even take it underneath the brow to make this area open up even more. Again, if you've got hooded eyes or excess skin, or it's quite prominent, then you might not want to do this the whole way along, okay? Right, and that just opens up the eyes even more. Okay, so then what you might like to do is grab, what you might like to do is grab another angle brush and just pop this white shade just on this inner corner here. And see how it not only draws attention to the whites of your eyes, it makes your eyes look whiter, but it also makes this area look bigger. Again, it's just this little corner that we're doing. Perfect. Okay, and then one more tip just to get the eyes looking really nice and open is to pop a little bit of shimmer just here. So what that's going to do is just, again, give height. So this, I'm going to use this more salmon neutral color, and you could use the white. I think the white could be a bit intense for some, so I'm just using this nice little salmon. This is a little tip that I picked up from actually Ray Morris many years ago that I've seen that I love. It's just such a simple little, and it's almost just a dot in line with your eyeball here. See how it just opens up your eye, that little dot. So underneath the lashes, I'm looking down, but if I look straight ahead, it's in line with your eyeball here and here, just to open that eye right up. Okay, so I'll come back to the palette on how many other things you can do with it. Of course, you could use these as eyeshadows as well. You could use them as bronzers. It's really up to you, and blush if you'd like. So coming back to that in a moment. Now, for those of you that do find that your eyeshadow moves, again, for me, I don't find the cream eyeshadow moves, which is great, but I know some of you have this as an issue. What I would do is get one of our really large brushes from the brush kit. Okay, keep that one clean, because this can be your blending brush. I always have a clean brush handy to not only blend my eyeshadows, but also just to help mattify them if I'm wanting to set an area down. So just get a loose amount of the oil control setting powder and just pop it onto the ball of the eye there. You don't want to take it up to here because obviously you're going to lose all that nice shimmer. So just on the ball of the eye, it will dull the eyeshadow a little bit, so you really want to just stick to this area, okay? And try not to go into that crease too much. Now, one of my favorite tips is that if you've gone a little bit low or you've gone a little bit heavy-handed on your outer corner, because obviously we want that to be nice and crisp and lift the eye up. If you've made that too heavy or it's too droopy, always have, again, another clean brush that's more of a concealing brush handy, and all you need to do is just have a little bit of your foundation dipped onto that, and then you just sweep it up. So you just pop the brush flat. I love the faces I pull when I do this. So just lift it up like that, and it will just erase all of that from down there, and it'll give a natural lift to the eyes by pulling that product upwards. So that's just a little tip. Have a little bit of concealer or even your foundation, nothing too heavy because you don't want to take away the work you've done, but it'll just help to lift that. I do like to sometimes come back to my eyes after I put mascara on, because then I can see if I actually want it a little bit more intense or not, but I do obviously start by getting most of that done before I've put my mascara on. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the palette just to give me a little bit of warmth, and I'm also going to use it for a blush and an illuminizer. Again, you could use this for your eyes as we've just gone through, but you can also use this on the face as well. All right, so one of the things I'm going to do first is just give a little bit of warmth to my face. I like to have an extra dimension, I suppose, by popping a little bit of bronzer or even our pigment blend, even a darker foundation just along my hairline. It just warms up the face so it doesn't look so one-dimensional with just foundation. And I've also got pigment damage on my forehead, and I find that the bronzers tend to help neutralize that. So I'm going to use this color here in the palette with one of my larger brushes. So just remember that the larger the brush, the less coverage you'll get. And you can see that that's given me a nice little bit of warmth. Now, if you've been a little bit heavy-handed, which I was initially, you should be able to just blend that away. But if not, always come back to your trusty kabuki brush that's got a little bit of foundation on it, and you can just sweep over it to tone it down a little bit. So the important thing here with the minerals is they all work really well together. They all mold together really well. So if you do get something that is a little bit heavy, or you've not been paying attention and you've got too much on the brush and you've just dolloped it on, then just use your kabuki brush to blend that away a little bit. Okay, so I put the intensity just up along my hairline, but I've also then, with what's left on the brush, just gently swept it down so I don't look like I've got a line of bronzer. Now, you might like to just bring that what's left on the brush down onto the underneath of the cheek area. If you're already quite sallow, then I wouldn't do that because it will make the face look even thinner. Obviously, making this area a little bit darker will give more structure to the cheekbone, but it will also narrow the face. If you've got a larger face, a squarer face, or a very round face, this is a really quick technique just to give a little bit more structure, but without going to the effort of having to fully contour your face. So it's just using the rest of the bronzer that you had on your face, and on your brush rather, and you're just blending that down under the cheekbone area. You might also like to use what's left on the brush down along the jaw to give some nice structure. And of course, if you're wanting to, you might like to even just dust a little bit down the neck, especially if you've got excess skin here or excess fat here and you're trying to create a little bit of structure. You might like to just put a little bit of your bronzer or your contour product just under here. Again, you don't want it to be too much darker than your foundation or you're going to really notice it. The key is just to have a very nice, very soft, change in color that's a little bit darker than your foundation to give that nice structure to the face, the jawline, the cheekbones. Again, a couple of shades darker is probably enough. Now, I'm happy with that. I often like to then just use my brush with what's left on it, just to gently sweep over my mouth, just to bring everything together. That's just me. I just like to give a little bit of that little extra bit of color to the rest of my face so it doesn't look so structured, or the product doesn't look so structured and separated, I guess is the word. All right, so now what I'm going to do is pop on some of the blush, which is also a darker illuminizing product here. And I'm using a large brush because I want this to be quite sparse. I don't want it to be too intense. I want it to be quite natural. That is such a pretty color. I love that. And that really gentle sheen that it has just gives a really nice glow, a healthy, dewy look, but it also makes the cheekbones stand out and look that little bit bigger. So this color's kind of like a little bit of a dark peachy, sort of a salmon color, and it's really pretty on the eyes as well. Okay, so I'm really happy with that intensity of that cheek color. It's quite natural and neutral. If you're wanting a pop of color, I do love using two blushes, and so you could use a cream, or you could use one of our other intense blush colors over the top. Summer would be really pretty. One of the products that I really love is using the natural pink lipstick. So I just love using two different blush colors. I just find the more color you can add, it looks more natural because it creates a natural flush rather than just one blush color. So I tend to put a more neutral color on my cheeks and then something a little bit more intense on the apples of my cheeks. Not too low because we don't want to drag the face down. Unless you have a rounder face, then you might like to take the blush down a little bit further, but I'm quite narrow here, so I tend to keep this pop of color with my blush up on the tops of my cheeks, definitely no lower than my mid nose area. So that's a way you can introduce a really pretty pop of color, even something really super bright, and just blend that in with a neutral color underneath. Okay, so moving along, if you're wanting to use some illuminizing products to enhance your nose or your brows even, sorry, your cheeks even more, maybe even your lips, you might like this particular technique. So getting a smaller brush, what you might like to do is pop a little bit of the lighter illuminizer onto the temples. Another little trick for those of us that are a bit more sallow, that will just help lift that area and make it look more plump. So a little bit of illuminizer there, and then that extends into your blush. You could pop a little bit onto your forehead for some dewiness, although if you've got dry skin or you've got wrinkles there, I would avoid it. So really you want to avoid anything that's too shimmery on an area where the skin is dry or the skin has excess or has wrinkles that you don't want to draw attention to, okay? So that is just a quick little illuminescence. I haven't put too much on my cheeks because it was already in the cheek color that I used. Now for lips, a little trick. If you've got smoker's lines or you've got wrinkles on the lips, you might want to skip this and just go straight to your lipstick or your gloss. But for those of you that want to enhance your lips and also make them look that little bit bigger, here's a couple of little tips from me. It's about making the central part of your mouth a little bit lighter than the rest because it's drawing attention to that area. Light's more reflected in the middle, which is giving you the illusion of a pout. So using this color here, the darker of the two tops, you could use an angle brush, and all you need to do is just trace the top of your Cupid's bow. And then that just gives a little bit of a lip curl, a more natural lip curl. You can also, again, I wouldn't recommend this if you're someone who's particularly sweaty, because you probably get this naturally, but if you wanted to just pop a little bit on this skin above your Cupid's bow, blend it really well because you don't want to see two lines. But that's just giving light to this part of my mouth, giving the illusion of a fuller, more curled lip. You can take that one step further by popping a little bit underneath. Okay, and of course also in the middle of the lips. It just keeps the lips a little bit lighter in the middle when you put your lippy on. You could also do this over the top of your lippy if you wanted to. Or you can also use two different lip colours. Okay. Okay, so that's perfect. So then when I get to my lipstick, the lipstick's going to be lighter here, just very subtly, just giving the illusion of that lip pout. So I'm going to use the natural pink lippy. So the natural pink lipstick, I just love this. I use it on my, as you know, my cheeks, which I just did, but I also love it as a really nice lip colour. It's a nice pinky nude. Now, I've just popped my lipstick on without any lip liner. You can, of course, put lip liner on as well. My tip there would be to stick to your lip line. If you've got this little white edge of your lip like I do, you could possibly put the liner there, but definitely no further than your actual real lip line because it stands out and it's really obvious. So just sticking to this nice white line, and for someone who has a flatter side of their mouth, you could just ever so slightly go onto your white line there, but this one maybe keep it just slightly under. So then you're just creating that balance. Makeup is all about being fun. It's all about enhancing things that you love and maybe just help subtly toning down things that you don't love. It should never be about a mask changing completely the way you look. And I do think, again, it's about still letting some of your natural features shine through. That includes your skin and some of your imperfections. At the end of the day, do something that you love, step outside your comfort zone a little bit, watch some more of the tutorials for some tips, pop me on your bench somewhere and just put it on pause until you get some of these little tips down to perfection, and then it'll just be something that you do really easily each and every day.